Akrasia is a Greek word defined as the state of mind in which one acts against their better judgment through weakness of will. It's also the second studio album by electronic artist Steven, released in 2020. I love this album, and it's a shame that it's not more well known. It never really reached the heights of Steven's most popular works. But because I love this album so much, I want to share it and the story behind it with you all. My name is Andy, and this is Everyday Music School. In 2016, Steven was on top of the electronic music world. He released his first studio album, Sincerely, and his most well-known song, Crossfire. This song is easily his most successful. At the time of me recording this, it has amassed 133 million Spotify streams and hundreds of millions more YouTube views. Everything seemed to be going right for Steven. He was playing at music festivals, he was amassing streams, and his fans really, truly loved his music. However, after the release of his album, his health had taken a turn for the worse. Right as he was starting to plan his second album, Steven had unknowingly contracted Lyme disease, and he went undiagnosed for over half a year. It's safe to say that the timing could not have been worse. Right as he was beginning to gain traction, everything just grinded to a halt. Steven wasn't able to pursue music during this time. The pain from Lyme disease was just too debilitating for him. In a retrospective Instagram post a few years later, he would say, "I remember the day I said to myself, Steven, all of your ambitions have to take a back seat right now. The only thing that matters is that you get healthy." It was at this time that he began playing the video game Overwatch. You may wonder why I'm bringing this up, but trust me, this is going to be important later. According to Steven, for almost a year, I would see my doctor for treatment, and then I would come home and play Overwatch until I fell asleep. And to his credit, it worked. Steven got to a point where he felt like he could produce music again. However, what didn't return was the same magic he felt when he recorded his first album. When artists achieve success on the same level that Steven did, once the euphoria dies down, there's kind of this feeling like, okay, now what? It becomes difficult to live up to the standard of their last release. This is exactly how the members of Pink Floyd felt after the massive success of Dark Side of the Moon. Everything has to be bigger and better. But Steven felt that what he was producing wasn't up to par with what he had produced in the past. Whether this is true or not, all that we know is that this only made him want to play Overwatch more, to the point where it became a full-blown gaming addiction. The more he struggled to create, the more he wanted to play video games. And the more he played video games, the less he wanted to create music. It became a vicious cycle of instant gratification. In that same Instagram post, Steven said, "Every time I played, it compounded a general feeling of guilt and shame, which made it even harder to face reality. I didn't have my best interest. I became compulsive, lazy, and impatient." Talk about self-awareness, right? When I was doing the research for this video, I tried to figure out how Steven broke his gaming addiction. And to be honest, I still don't really know. But obviously he was able to record music and release music again. We know this. So what happened? In 2019, Steven released an EP. It's Too Much Love to Know, My Dear. More importantly, he released it independently after parting ways with his label and his management company. It's possible that this gave him the creative freedom he felt he needed to record the EP. The best evidence for this is that his EP sounds nothing like his first album. His music has always had an experimental side to it, but this EP just took it to a whole new level. He threw the traditional EDM song structure out the window and created this blend of electronic, R&B, and psychedelic music. But Steven wasn't done yet. 4 years after the release of Sincerely, Steven releases the lead single from his second studio album, I Never Stay in Love. This song starts as a piano ballad and somehow transitions into an aggressive electronic hip-hop song. Later that month, he released the second single called Tracer. This song was directly inspired by his Overwatch addiction. Tracer is the name of one of the main playable characters in Overwatch. And what's cool is that the lyrics directly reference other characters from the game. The third single, Stray Nights, came out next. This song is the closest thing to a pop song on the entire record, and it even featured vocals from an old bandmate of his from when he was in high school. The final single is called Delilah. This song follows a similar format musically to I Never Stay in Love. These songs all sound completely different, but the common thread running through all of them is the lyrics. This became even more apparent on August 21st, 2020, when the album Akrasia was finally released. I won't go through every song on the album because it would take way too long, but I do want to touch upon what this album is about and why it means so much to me. At the start of the video, I read the definition of Akrasia: the state of mind in which one acts against their better judgment through weakness of will. This is something that I think everybody can relate to varying degrees, but it's not really something that people write songs about. But more than that, the album Akrasia is about loving yourself. It's about doing what you know objectively is best for you and not giving into temptation and instant gratification. I Never Stay in Love talks about this in the context of relationships. It's about the idea of being able to love your partner without feeling dependent on them. Tracer talks about this in the context of Steven's gaming addiction. The game drew him in, even though there were more productive things he could have done instead of playing video games. Loving yourself means knowing how to put down the thing that gives you instant gratification and putting time into something greater than yourself. Akrasia has an incredibly positive message. I didn't appreciate it enough at the time, but when I look back on this album, I realize how beautiful it is, musically and lyrically. If you've made it this far into the video, you're probably interested by now in what this album actually sounds like, so I'm gonna leave the link to it in the description. I highly recommend that you listen to it from start to finish without shuffling the songs. You will not regret it. Steven's been pretty quiet since this album came out. He hasn't made an Instagram post since late 2020, and he's only tweeted twice in the past 2 years. Most recently, he featured on the song Terrified of Loving You in 2022 by the artist Harrison, who is Steven's cousin. But whatever Steven is up to these days, I hope that that third studio album fits somewhere in that picture, because if it's anywhere close to as good as Akrasia was, then we'll be in for a good album. I can guarantee you that. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope I did a good job convincing you to give this album a chance. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this album. And thank you very much for watching.